New Congress, new subcommittees. In a partisan vote, House Republicans this week approved the creation of the Select Committee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government. The vague resolution that created the committee gives it the authority to broadly investigate the executive branch and any federal agency that falls under its control. The committee will have subpoena power and be chaired by Ohio Republican Jim Jordan. Jordan says the goal of the committee is to, quote, protecting the First Amendment. But some Democrats have started calling it the Tinfoil Hat Committee, saying it's an excuse to push conspiracy theories. CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane joins me now. Scott, unlike the January 6th committee, which set out to investigate a single event and the actions surrounding it, this resolution creates a committee with functions and authority defined fairly open-ended. What's the committee expected to investigate in the next 2 years?
It really is an amorphous thing. It's hard to get your hands around what this committee is going to do, which is telling because just yesterday it was formally approved by the U.S. House to function. The would-be chairman, Jim Jordan of Ohio, on a floor speech describing this committee had made references to overreach by the big federal agencies, the ones we all have heard about, the FBI, the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security, not the more abstract components of the federal government. And he says into those agencies potential overreach into individual Americans' lives, indicating they may be overreaching into those who have conservative viewpoints, who may be against expanding abortion rights, who may be somehow protesting their local school boards. But that's about it. There's not a whole codified list of would-be hearings and would-be issue areas. But I'll note this. What an expansive portfolio this committee is going to have. It'll have subpoena power, it'll have 2 years to do its work, and it will have in its portfolio oversight over the top-line agencies in the federal government. That's a big thing over the next 24 months.
And I keep thinking, Scott, about all the other chairmen and chairwomen of the other committees who are going to have their toes stepped on, because there are things like the House Committee on Oversight and Reform, which has been around for 100 years. So won't there be overlap?
Oh, there will be overlap. There will be toes stepped upon. There will be all kinds of turf wars. Yeah, that's an inevitability. But this was something that the Freedom Caucus of the House Republican Conference, the same group that held out on electing Kevin McCarthy Speaker, has been advocating for some time and advocating unambiguously. Democrats, CBS News has learned, will not be boycotting this committee. They will participate. They don't want this committee to have the ability to synchronize and unify its voice and to choreograph hearings. See, this is the thing, John. The January 6th Select Committee commanded the audience of tens of millions of Americans, in part because they were able to choreograph and synchronize their hearings and make them into compelling television. Republicans boycotted that committee. If Republicans, Jim Jordan included, had taken their seats on the January 6th committee, they could have mucked that thing up, made it messy, ugly, and not digestible television. They could have reduced the impact of the committee. Several Democrats speaking with CBS News tonight say they will take their seats in this committee to ensure the same isn't true this time.
And it'll be fascinating to see who Democrats put up for that duty. As a final question, Scott, you mentioned the deal that those who weren't voting for Speaker McCarthy ultimately struck with him in order to make him Speaker of the House. So in that context, what is the shadow document?
The shadow document is like the only thing in Washington that sounds cool. We have a bunch of jargon that circulates around Capitol Hill. It all sounds bureaucratic and parliamentary. Shadow document. So we haven't seen this thing, but there are several members of the Republican conference who've expressed concern that there was a 3-page addendum of some sort added to the rules approved by the U.S. House this week that was part of those negotiations with that faction that broke off from Kevin McCarthy last week. There's been denial that such a document exists, that there is a piece of paper. Presumably, if there was one, it would have surfaced by now. But the concern is, were there other concessions that were put down and somehow circulated among members to secure their votes to make Kevin McCarthy Speaker? What we do know is the concessions he has made clear, that some members of that faction of the far right, the further right, House Freedom Caucus will get key positions on key committees, John, that presumably includes the House Rules Committee, which you know has its fingerprints on every piece of legislation that gets to the floor.
What's so fascinating about this, Scott, is that the new majority has said that they're going to be extra transparent and that there aren't going to be any last-minute side deals on future legislation, the kind of side deals that end up getting future legislation passed. What the shadow document suggests is that to get the speaker elected, they needed to engage in that old-fashioned deal-making, which doesn't look so good in front of the public, but that you have to kind of do behind the scenes to get things to happen. And so it seems like to put themselves in a position to be transparent, they had to perhaps be not transparent.
And you got to be careful with that because it already frustrated some of the moderates. Nancy Mace of South Carolina complained that these conference members of hers who want to drain the swamp appeared swamp-like with that middle-of-the-night speaker vote and this potential shadow document. Kevin McCarthy, to keep his speakership intact, will have to keep the moderates satisfied, and any type of overnight or dark negotiations might infuriate those moderates.
Tough balancing act. Scott MacFarlane, thank you.